Braden, have you ever seen the movie Neighbours from 1952?
Why, yes, I have.
Wow.
I just watched it with you.
Wow, we just watched it for not the first time, but we've watched it to review again because we wanted to do a video on this masterpiece of short film cinema.
One of our favorite short films, I would say.
I think this is easily 5 out of 5 for me, just out of the gate. This is a movie you could show anybody and they'll get it. The message is simple, it's straightforward, and it's well executed.
I 100% agree. We'd go through the Criterion channel and just sort of find short films to watch, and there's a lot of duds on there, and this was always a shining star.
This was always a shining star. This was always... Okay, anyway, moving on. It's great, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What'd you think about it?
Watching it again, I mean, it's just as good as I remember, maybe even like a little better. Like, I didn't remember everything about the film. There's certain aspects of it, like the music. But I mean, it holds up. It holds up.
Give me a brief description of what happens in this.
Neighbours is like an 8-minute short film. It stars two guys, two sort of jaunty fellows, you know?
Two guys,
just like us.
Wow.
Yeah. A flower sprouts up between their two houses, and they love that flower, maybe a little too much.
Yeah.
Because they start beefing over that flower.
And it causes some serious conflict. So, Braden, I want to give you a little background on this movie real quick.
Go ahead. I know nothing.
Okay, so this movie came out in 1952. Now, some stuff was going on in 1952. Namely, it was a couple of years after the end of World War II, and it was right towards the beginning of the Korean War.
Okay.
So, obviously, this film has some anti-war sentiment.
Definitely. You can see that right from the beginning. They have newspapers.
Yes, in the beginning, one neighbor, and also one thing to note, the neighbors look similar. They're dressed similarly.
Exactly the same. Almost.
Their houses look almost identical. And they're sitting and they're reading a newspaper showing kind of different perspectives. You know, peace certain if no war, war certain if no peace.
Same thing. Different font, you know, different way of saying it.
This was directed by a man named Norman McLaren. Now, some interesting things you may not know about Norman McLaren. Norman McLaren also made Begone Dull Care and Cherry Tale, which are two other Criterion.
Right, we did like those.
Yes, those are two other good Criterion things that we saw on the Criterion channel that we may make videos on.
Yeah, we should talk about those.
We should. Also, Norm McLaren was a devout communist, and in his 20s, his father, who I guess was more conservative, tried to change him from being a communist, so he sent him to go live in the Soviet Union. And then he came back and was more communist because of that.
Yeah, okay.
So
I mean, that reads from this film, you know.
Yes.
A lot of talk about greed, I guess you could say, in the film. You know, people.
Now, he's also a committed pacifist, which is kind of interesting, seeing some of the violence in this movie. Speaking on the violence, Braden, did you know that this film had to be released censored?
Really?
Yes.
What was censored?
The child murder.
Oh, they didn't like child murder?
They didn't like the child murder.
That?
I think we're seeing a running theme. People think child murder is a little too dark for children.
I guess so. That's my favorite scene, personally.
But it's not like violence that like a kid couldn't watch.
It's violent like Tom and Jerry.
Yes.
You know?
Everybody laughs when he kicks the baby and the woman in the face.
I laugh even at the other violence, like when they're picking up the pieces of fences and he's went to sword fight.
And they're fencing each other?
Yeah, they're fencing each other. I just got that. I didn't even
think about that either.
That's funny. This movie's like a weird blend of video footage, but then also just like stop motion animation, like kind of janky stop motion animation, but like janky in like a charming way, not janky in like that's all they could do kind of way, you know.
No, it definitely feels intentional and it matches. There's nothing in here that feels very out of place. What do you think the flower represents? When you watch it, what does the flower mean to you?
Some sort of joy or resource. Obviously, it's something they fight over. There's sort of like a war metaphor, greed, whatever. So like, you know, you think about like natural resources when you see it. You know, something people have war over.
It is a natural resource.
That's true.
You know, oil, money, grains. Money's not really natural, but like who cares about that? And at first they enjoy it together. But then they're like, there's only one. There's not enough for both of us. It has to be mine. It can't be yours. And then it gets very tribal very quickly.
They start off fencing, and then eventually they're like beating each other into the ground, you know? And there's even like makeup put on his face. I like the way they do that effect. He goes down, and then he goes up, and then he's got more makeup.
And then they're like, fuck it, we're bringing the women and children into this.
Yeah.
And then they go, and then after that, it's just like a nuclear holocaust. All out war, and then it's over, and they both die. And the ironic thing is, What happens after they both die, Braden?
They both get flowers on their grave.
They both get flowers on the grave. There was enough for everybody, but they were just too greedy and not willing to share it with the community, like the communism that Norman McLaren is known for.
Of course. Another thing that I want to say is just, this is a very colorful film too. Like it's shot, it's kind of like, you can tell it's low budget, but it's everything about it, as you said earlier, was completely intentional. They used the fullest extent of their budget, and it doesn't like, despite you knowing it's low budget, you're never like, oh, they're pulling punches or anything like that.
Yeah.
Everything looks how it should look, and it has that charm to it. From
It also has a very good universal appeal, not in the fact that it's just simple but effective, but in the fact that at the end, the message is literally to love your neighbor, and they show it in several different languages repeatedly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So that way you could show this to people in India, in China, in Canada, which is where this film originates from, and they'll all be able to get the message generally.
Right. There's no dialogue either.
Yeah. You don't even need the words to understand the story.
Of course not. You don't need the words at all. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just music over the entire thing. So it's a universal language, this film. They say film's the universal language. But yeah, it's on YouTube, so you can just go check it out. It's like 8 minutes. There's no reason not to watch it.
Go watch it and show your friends, especially show it to people who know nothing about it, and they'll find it, and they'll probably find it funny and charming and endearing. I can't think of anyone that I've ever showed this to that was like, I wish you didn't show that to me, Andrew.
Exactly. There's nothing like, it's not sluggish, it's not like a bore, it's not too preachy.
It's not too long either.
Yeah. It's just fun.
Yeah. So, good.
Yeah.
All right, Braden. I think those are our thoughts on Neighbors.
Is it time to bid the video adieu?
Bid it adieu, Braden. Bid it adieu. Adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. I do. No.